So, welcome to this second clip in a series about the differences and similarities between BC and C#D styles of accordion playing in Irish music. In the first clip we looked at the key of D mainly and a little bit at E minor, and we saw that particularly in D the notion that the BC is played on the draw really proves to be correct, and whereas C#D is in the old press and draw style. Well, let's look at a different key where things are somewhat, the boot is somewhat on the other foot. This is the other main major key used in Irish music, and that is the key of G. Now before we start looking at the key of G, let's just play the scale of on each system. Here's the C#D style, G fingering. I have to cross over to the outer row for the C natural. I can also cross over for F sharps when I need them. So that makes the key fairly much a draw key, perhaps not as much as D on the BC. And when we come to BC style fingering for the scale of G, we get once again, I'm only obliged to cross over to the outer row for one note, that's the F sharp. I can of course use the outer row B when I want, and that we'll see that'll be useful in some of the examples I'm going to give. And then we can also use the outer row E here, which will be handy in one of the tunes I'm going to show you. So then G on the C#D is predominantly on the draw, and on BC it's predominantly on the press, but our magic note of E particularly allows us to do some passages on the draw. Now let's look at a couple of tunes. Let's take a tune called Speed the Plough and look how it works out on the C#D fingering. Now you'll notice that this is pretty much on the pull, and by using the outer row F sharp here, in this rundown, this is all on the pull. This is on the pull accent, this is on the push. Now let's try that in BC fingering. Remember that, of course, that because I'm playing this on my C#D box, using BC fingering for G, the tune will come out sounding an A, but we're interested in the fingering for our purposes here. Everything is pretty much reversed from what we were doing on in C#D fingering. The rundown here, we start with a push, use the outer row B here, so we're pushing exactly where we were pulling on C#D, we're pushing, we're pulling, so it's really a mirror image in that particular tune. Let's look at another tune in G, a common one. This is Donnybrook Fair. C#D style first. Balances out quite well, but it's predominantly draw. Now if we do it on the BC, in this first part of the tune, what will come into play is that we'll be using the outer row E, and we'll see what difference that makes. So while this again is more or less a mirror image of what's happening on the C-sharp D, the fact that we can play this particular run, we've got 4 notes on the pull there. That's E, D, B, and what's this? And A. On C-sharp D, we'll be doing a lot of pressing and drawing there. So there, although the tunes are more or less a mirror image of each other, the use of the outer row E there and BC style gives us a row of 4 notes on the pull. Of course, we use quite a lot of pulling. We add to the amount of pulling we do in C-sharp D style by using the outer row F sharp, and same thing in the second part of the tune. So, going back to the scale of G, on the BC, everything is contained within the span of 4 buttons, and on C-sharp D is contained within the span of 5 buttons. Doesn't seem like much of a change, but it will give you the impression, playing in G on the C-sharp D, that you have to move around a bit more mobility, a bit like playing in D on the BC. You have to use more buttons. However, this doesn't make much difference really when you're playing ordinary whistle and flute tunes that don't go down below the note of D. But when you play fiddle tunes that go down to the low string on the fiddle, down to below D, those notes, D down to low G, the extra spacing on the C-sharp D turns into more of a problem, shall we say. And in many ways it's a lot easier to play those kinds of tunes in BC style. Let me give you an example. Here's Joe Cooley's reel, Joe Cooley's hornpipe I should say. Going down to the notes of C, B, and G, we have to go right down there. If we play that BC style, I'll do that again. When we get down to that low passage, 2 buttons there, adjacent buttons for those 4 notes. Those same 4 notes on C-sharp D. Not only 4 buttons, but they're really spaced out. So tunes like that go down to low G are more awkward in the key of G on C-sharp D, there's no doubt about that. I find some of those tunes quite challenging. One that kills me is the Cold Fodder or Larry Redican's reel, and Brendan McGlinchey's fiddle tunes, such as his hornpipe, which is sometimes called Cross the Fence, keeps nipping down to low B and low G, and his reel Farewell to London. It's considerably more awkward on the C-sharp D. So that's the dirty little secret about playing in common keys on the C-sharp D. It's actually easier to start off with in BC. And I think that is why very often tutorials will start BC players off playing in G rather than D, because it's I think it's easy to get a handle on. So I think that's enough about the key of G. We'll stop now because there's plenty of other keys to be looked at and interesting things to discover, and I'll make other clips about those, but this will do for today. Thanks again for watching. Press the like button if you like, and see you next time.